This is Hollow Knight, but beating all bosses in reverse alphabetical order. Why though? Well, I noticed that there are some people who have beaten all the bosses that give a percent in alphabetical order, so why not do it in reverse and make it harder, because there are plenty of bosses that will cause me problems. For this challenge, I will beat every boss that is possible to reach at that point. Like for instance, I will beat Xero first no matter what. But any bosses that have a prerequisite boss to even start, like the Enraged Guardian and bosses locked behind void walls that aren't accessible without a shade cloak specifically, will not be done. Pantheon only bosses like Pure Vessel, Sly, and the Brothers require other bosses to defeat, and if they don't come in the order, then they are included. So with that being said, here's a list of all the bosses that don't have a limitation like that. I will be using this order for the entire challenge and cannot progress past a boss unless it has been defeated. For the next boss on the list, will be shown in the top right corner for the duration of the challenge. For the record, though, I am relatively new to various skips with Fireball and Shade Pogo stalling, so I learn it as I go. Unfortunately for me, the first three bosses look very daunting, and me and the Watcher Knights aren't on good terms. We start our challenge off in King's Pass. I have to get to Xero without killing any bosses, so no Mothwing Cloak, which is dash. However, it should be possible to get Mantis Claw, but very difficult. I have a choice between two different skips I can do to get there, but before that we need to break this and get out of the False Knight arena, because I can't touch him yet. He hasn't given consent.
Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake and then go back home.
We easily get our first spell, Fireball, and now we should be able to try the skips. I did need to look up a tutorial for this, as I have never actually done Fireball skips before. The first one I tried to do was Slow Ball, where you shoot a fireball that you can pogo off of. However, after failing for 30 minutes straight, I realized from the tutorial that it is FPS based. Very precise to pull off and very inconsistent. So that was just one off the table immediately. Looking back on this though, I was surprised how this next skip is even possible, and who even found this out. It is in the Queen's Station, which you can access from Green Path, and it requires a triple fireball skip. Triple to get to this platform that leads into Funnel. This is where the learning curve begins. This will also be a quick how-to for people that are trying to do this as well. I promise it won't take long. So the fireball, when fired, slightly moves you in the opposite direction of where you fired it. And the distance between these two platforms is the distance of 3 of those fireballs, and a full jump. However, I cannot spam them all at the same time, because the moment you do, you will fall down too fast on the way down and barely miss the platform. So that's where these interval fireballs come into play using quick cast. In order to add the distance I need, I have to turn around midair and cast, meaning I need to jump and at the max height fireball after turning around in delayed intervals. 3 times to just barely have enough distance to make it to the platform. This was unfortunately the only way to progress. I spent around 2 to 3 hours grabbing the soul I needed to cast and attempting the jump, getting frustrated and taking breaks. Eventually though, I was able to get the hang of the first 2 fireballs. I just needed to perfect the last one. And I miss. Only a measly 10 minutes later, this happened though. Oh my god, there's actually no way, oh my god, how? Oh my god. I even had to learn an entire new keybind set for this. Very painful jump. Now I was very nervous. There isn't a bench to save my progress anywhere near this. The closest one I had to get to was by the Leg Eater bench, but that required beating the Shroomel Ogres, which aren't bosses though. So I had my go. I became quickly blinded by the fact I might even have to do the skip over again. But at 1 HP, I had one of the top 10 lock-ins of my entire life. Not even close! Usually at this point, a normal player would have dashed to get across the acid, but I am a professional fireball skipper now. A professional fireball skipper now. Easy. You know what's better than doing one skip? Yeah, that's right. Another one. After this very long walk, I need to get up on this wall right here. This is because the other normal route expects the character to already have dash. Now I need to get a shade skip while fireball stalling for more height. I have some experience in this, so it's not too bad. The goal is for the shade to hit me, pogo off of it, fireball twice, hit it again, and then we're up. Fortunately, this didn't take as long as the first skip. In about 5-ish attempts, I get my first one. Yes, you heard me right. The first one. Because I forgot to get the damn lever and had to do it all over again. What a fun game. Yay! Little did I know how much more shit I would have to do later. You know, going into this, I knew I would have to do skips, but you never realize until you do something like this how much you actually rely on dash. You'll see why. On the second time I made the skip, I knew I had to do as much pogoing as I could to get over the gaps. Like this beautiful damage boost as well. I almost screwed myself over with this fireball jump because I was feeling ballsy. Luckily, I barely made it, and now I actually had wall jump, which pretty much allows me to get anywhere in the game.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
I have still yet to beat a single boss in this challenge. The plan now is to get Dream Nail, although that means I gotta find a way into City of Tears to take the elevator into Resting Grounds. That also means I need to get Trampas and Deep Nest through Fungal. Then next go to Ancient Basin, up into City of Tears, and boom, Dream Nail. For those who don't know, the first boss, Xero, can't be fought unless I get Dream Nail. I went this way in particular though, for the King's Station to come back and do Watcher Knights. Also, since I can't do Blue Lake skip without dash. I sold to LeBron James over here, and got a Gorgeous House on the way. It didn't take as long as I would have thought to get to Resting Grounds, and I'm not complaining. Easy as that. Dream Nail was obtained without Moth and Cloak. Xero is finally able to fight. I still don't think that some bosses were possible due to not being able to platform without it. Poor Xero. Didn't even stand a chance. Next is Watcher Knights, while very undergeared. I got Shaman Stone doing reverse Blue Lake skip. Never seen before. I have to truly learn how to use spells in combat now, rather than rely 100% of the time on the nail. Yeah, I'm talking to you watching this. Cool little skip here that skips the need for double jump to get to the spire. Surprisingly only took a couple of attempts. I've done Watcher Knights so many times to count, but I have never done them without dash and the worst nail. I truly had to relearn the fight over again, and after countless deaths, dying over and over and over again, a common theme in this playthrough, by the way, I finally got this attempt. Over the course of about 1 to 2 hours, I finally beat it. Finally being only the second boss. Wait, it's only been 2? Are you kidding me? It's only 2 bosses in, and I am losing my mind. Just wait till you see Crystal Dash without being able to dash. I honestly thought I would quit here. To give some context, Uumuu is the next boss. Although, usually in Hollow Knight, Uumuu and Watcher Knights are the last bosses you fight before defeating Hollow Knight and finishing the game. But since they are the first to start with, I'm missing out on a lot of upgrades that you would normally get as you progress through the story. Uumuu requires Crystal Heart to access, which doesn't require a boss to get to. But here's the issue. Crystal Heart is an upgrade you get by doing a bunch of platforming in the Crystal Peak. But 99% of players usually have Cloak and other upgrades before attempting the platforming, because you would specifically have to do what I did to get here. Getting to this area is the easy part. There are also no benches nearby, so it's a very long walk every attempt. Wait, is this part even possible? This is when the real suffices climb begins. I scoured the internet for a dashless way to get through this section. There was only one video I found, so thank you, random person, for proving that it's possible, and now I'm forced to do all this. Now, I'm actually thankful though, because without this, it would be as if I'm banging my head against a brick wall, hoping that the wall breaks first. Not watching the full video was a big mistake. I mean big. There are 3 major tricks I had to do to beat the platforming. All were fireball jumps, with very annoying timing. A triple fireball skip was the first, and 2 others with max jump height later. If you fell once during the second part, you have to restart the entire platforming section over again. So that means going back to the bench, walking over to the section, and doing it again, only because you desperately need the soul. So I spent the next several hours learning how to perfectly do consistent fireball jumps, and remember how I said I regret not watching the full vid first? Well, that's because at the time, I didn't know there were more fireball jumps I had to do past the triple. So now, I had to go back and get 10 grubs for Grub Song in the middle of this, just so I would have enough soul to use a total of 5 fireballs. Max soul, plus the soul I get when I take damage from Grub Song. Why did I do this to myself? Bro, I swear to God, I was right there! This is what people resort to without Silksong Team Cherry. I had to take a break and go outside because I was having a hard time. But the moment I got back to attempting this happened. Finally! Oh my god! I will admit, I lost my cool. I can do skips like these first try. So that should also tell you guys how annoying those previous skips were to do. Also, I can't get Isma's tier to be immune to the acid because that requires beating Dung Defender. Time to beat the third boss. Getting to Uumuu is really easy, and fighting without dash was kind of fun, to be honest. Or maybe I've just become a masochist to this stupid game. Anyways, we got to the second dreamer. I wanted to do QGA, or for people who don't know, Queen's Garden Acid Skip, just for fun. It's basically a harder version of what I just did earlier. Surely not, right? Damn. It took me, honestly, an embarrassing amount of time, 4 hours, to realize that Trader Lord, which was supposed to be my next boss, I thought, isn't even possible to get to because of the void wall I forgot about later in the platforming. I even made a bunch of skips up on my own in Queen's Gardens to get there. Let's just say I did this all early to get to the stag station to get Marmu later on. So I can cope. I went back to kill Hera, the third dreamer, because I was still in the mindset of Trader Lord and wanted to get Cloth to do it for me. I got myself Elegant Key and moved on to the actual fourth boss of this run, which felt like it had more health than usual. Maybe I'm just delusional. I don't know. Most bosses from here on are pretty insignificant, except for some. So here's Soul Master Dead. Then made my way up to the Colosseum through Kingdom's Edge. Did Colosseum 1, then 2 for Oblobbles. Then I beat Nosk in Deep Nest. Then No Eyes in Green Path. Then Massive Moss Charger. I know, very intense fight. Then I made my previous trip to Queen's Garden, worth it for Marmu. Dashless Mantis Lords are very interesting and quite easy when it's not God Home as well. Hornet Sentinel was my next big stopping point. This is because I never attempted this area without Monarch Wings. Man, do I hate Primal Aspids. I also had to learn how to do the Aspid Pogo, and since I never upgraded my nail, I can hit it so many times. It was relatively easy, and with a couple attempts I got past it. Hornet Sentinel was a bit more difficult than I thought considering its health and the fact my nail doesn't do any damage. But it didn't take long as Hornet releasing in Silksong, that's for sure. It's weird that you can do the second Hornet fight before the first one, but that doesn't apply for Crystal Guardian. Poor Hornet Protector didn't even stand a chance. I finally get to have Dash this late in the game. Now I can truly pretty much get anywhere. Funnily enough, I count Hollow Knight in this run, so that's the next boss. Since I have all the Dreamers, I can't avoid it. I know you just checked the time in the video. Watcher Knights is a monster in comparison to this joke of a boss. Unless you're undergeared, that is. So with that, the game is over! GG's! What? What do you mean I'm only halfway? No, this can't be. Well, you heard him. On to Hive Night! which was a lot easier getting there without wings. Next is Grud's mother back in Crossroads. Now for Grim. So I activated the event, got the Grimkin, then started collecting the flames. Once I got all the flames for the second time, I fought Grim. It's been a while, so I died on the first attempt. Then into King's Pass for Gorb. This next part might be the most difficult part of the challenge, defeating the third Colosseum for God Tamer. Unfortunate part is I can't fight him in Godhome because the Pantheon isn't open and the Hall of Gods requires me to defeat the boss to unlock it there. Normally this Colosseum is optional because it is quite known to be difficult. My nail was in real bad shape as well, and I only had 2 upgraded spells. But I am balls deep into this run. I ain't gonna puss out and skip this boss. So it's time to grind. At some point, I stopped recording the attempts though, because I just had so much footage, and it was just taking too much space. I also decided that I might as well upgrade my nail, even if it makes the dream bosses harder later. It's not the priority. I am losing my mind. Death after death of this, oh my god. 10 minutes of fighting then dying to stupid spikes on the ground with no time to heal. I swear to god, I have a magnet attached to my head making me hit these spikes. It was only a matter of time before I either beat this boss or go insane. I almost forgot to record this boss. I've been dying over and over again. I stopped recording. When I finally got to the boss for the first time, I took a breather and calculated how many fireballs I needed to bulldoze through this boss. I only needed to kill the monster, which has 450 health, only 10 Shade Souls. Here's how it went. Finally, bro! Not even close. I had completely forgot the attack patterns of this boss and was way too nervous to focus, but somehow pulled through. Thank God I didn't die and had to do the entire Colosseum over again. At this point, I was 18 hours into this run. Far more than any normal playthrough. However, it should be just smooth sailing from here. So, let's go back to Deep Nest to defeat Galleon, get lost in waterways, then beat this joke of a boss. Did you know in terms of female Hollow Knight and male human breeding compatibility, Flukmarm is the most compatible Hollow Knight boss for humans? So now we get to go back and bully False Knight, then Elder Pooh, back into waterways for Dung Defender, the best boss. Then Crystal Guardian. I didn't bother getting Isma's Tear for the acid, so one more acid skip for the books. Now with the Love Key, I can go in, then beat the Collector. Next is Brooding Moloch. Like, what a joke. I saw your sibling in the Colosseum already. And finally we're on to the last boss of this run. I am absolutely not touching this game for a bit, especially after the Colosseum part. You could say that this game broke me. Get it? Haha? No? Not funny? Okay. Alright. So it's time to finish this challenge. It is possible to beat Hollow Knight's bosses in reverse alphabetical order. And with that, we're finally done. For the most part. Thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions for other challenges, including other games, let me know down below. But for now, good night. Bye.